The phone rang loudly in my living room, echoing across the wide walls of my ranch house. I had just come back from feeding the horses when I picked it up, expecting it to be a neighbor or maybe my sister. Instead, it was a voice I didn't recognize. A man's voice, cold and sharp. "Mr. Lawson?" he asked. "Speaking?" I said, wiping my hands on my jeans. "This is Attorney Malcolm Fry. I represent Mrs. Lydia Caraway. She's requesting that you vacate your property within 30 days. Her son, Calvin, needs it urgently for his future family. You're not being given a choice. Legal proceedings will commence if necessary." I nearly dropped the phone. "Excuse me," I said, thinking I misheard. "You heard me. Mrs. Caraway's son is getting married next month. They believe your ranch is best suited for their needs. They expect you to leave peacefully or we'll proceed with eviction." I stood there, stunned, staring at the dusty boots by my door, wondering if this was some elaborate prank. "This property isn't even part of any HOA," I said slowly. "I own this land outright. According to Mrs. Caraway, the original deeds are under review. She claims the land falls under association jurisdiction. You'll be hearing from us officially soon," he said, and then hung up. I was still holding the receiver when I looked out the window and saw Lydia Caraway herself, petite, platinum blonde, decked in a rose-colored jogging suit, clipboard in hand, walking straight onto my land. Behind her were two men in suits, examining my barn like they already owned it. My heart jumped into my throat. I stormed outside. "What do you think you're doing, Lydia?" I shouted. She turned with that practiced socialite smile as if we'd run into each other at brunch. "Just surveying for future upgrades, Wesley. You'll be out soon enough. Best to prepare everything for my Calvin." One of the suited men unrolled a blueprint on the hood of his sedan. My barn was marked for demolition, replaced by some sprawling modern monstrosity. I could hardly breathe. Then a black pickup pulled up the drive. Calvin Caraway stepped out, slicked back hair, smug smile, and an engagement ring box in hand. "Wes, thanks for making room. Madison and I really appreciate it." He walked up to me, arm outstretched, like this was some deal I had already signed off on. I didn't take his hand. My fists curled. I glanced at Lydia just as she snapped her fingers and the suited men headed toward my front door. I sprinted across the yard. "Get away from my house." One of them had his hand on the doorknob, hesitating only slightly as Lydia waved him forward. "This isn't your house," she said. "You're trespassing," I roared. "This is illegal." The shorter man muttered about surveying rights. I slammed the door shut and stood in front of it. "Set one foot inside and you'll regret it." They froze. Lydia blinked. Maybe she thought I'd just surrender. Calvin shrugged. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, old man. We'll even let you stay in the guest house for a week." I pulled out my phone and started dialing the sheriff. Lydia laughed, nervous now. Calvin tried to joke, but I could see the panic rising. "Fine," Lydia snapped. "We'll go. For now. But this isn't over." As they left, I took pictures of the tire tracks, their sign, future home of Calvin and Madison Caraway, and the rolled-up blueprint they forgot on the porch. I locked every door and window. That night, a text came through from an unknown number. "You can't stop us. Calvin deserves that land. Prepare to lose everything." The next morning, I went to the county office. The original deed listed me as the sole owner. No HOA. No annexation. Nothing. Debbie at the desk said, "You're not the first one to ask. Lydia was here last week trying to reassign the deed. I told her this isn't Russia." I laughed. For a second, I felt reassured. Until I pulled into my driveway and saw a moving truck. Calvin stood beside it, waving me over. Lydia held a welcome home banner. I walked slowly up to them. "What are you doing here?" "Moving in," Lydia beamed. "You have no claim to this land," I said, holding up the deed. "We control the utilities, Wesley," she whispered. "Water, roads, electricity. You won't last a week." "You're trespassing," I said, recording everything on my phone. Calvin laughed. "Nobody will believe you. We'll say you invited us." I turned away and called the sheriff. 10 minutes later, 2 cruisers pulled up. Deputy Rida, local I trusted, stepped out. I showed him the video. He turned to Lydia. "You need to leave. Now. Or you'll be arrested." They left in a huff. Days later, a man in a utility vest arrived, claiming he had orders to shut off my water for non-payment of HOA dues. I'm not in the HOA, I said. Take it up with them. Orders are orders, he replied. I raced to the Ridge Point HOA office, demanded answers, and crashed their board meeting. Lydia was inside, gloating. Once his water's gone, he'll cave, she told them. I dropped my deed on the table. This is the only paper that matters. After a heated debate, one board member finally said I moved to rescind the annexation. They all signed the reversal under my camera. Lydia scowled but complied. I returned home. No shut-off. For now. But then came the lawsuit. Lydia sued me for harassment and emotional distress. In court, she cried fake tears. Calvin stared blankly. Their lawyer painted me as a violent recluse. I presented the videos, the trespass notices, the forged documents. The judge, sharp and unimpressed, ruled in my favor. You had no legal grounds, she told Lydia. Case dismissed. I could have countersued, but I didn't. I just wanted peace. Then Trevor Price showed up. A slick developer in a sharp suit. Everyone has a price, mister. Lawson, he said. $500,000 cash. Not for sale, I replied. Days later, I received an eminent domain notice. The county was trying to seize my land. Trevor Price Enterprises listed as the buyer. I gathered everything, deeds, video, history, and went to Abby Collins at Channel 7 News. You've got a bombshell here, she said. The story exploded. Statewide outrage. Protests. Emails. County hearings. The claim was withdrawn. Price's contracts dissolved. Lydia and Calvin skipped town. One evening, a blue sedan pulled up. Madison Whitmore stepped out. I didn't know, she said. I'm sorry. She handed me a check from her father, Thomas Maxwell. $750,000. Use it for something good. I didn't sell. I built. Whitestone Acres now trains young ranchers and veterans. People heal here. Learn. Grow. The ranch was never just dirt and fence posts. It was my legacy. And no one on an HOA tyrant, a condescending son, or a greedy developer would ever take it from me again.